All right, we'll call this meeting of the Freeman School Board to order. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on the agenda is roll call.
Emily?
Yes.
David?
Yep.
Doug?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Cody?
Yes.
Great, next item on the agenda would be approval of the agenda. I will require a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is that you, Doug?
Yep.
Motion by Doug, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by David, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, conflict of interest disclosures. I've received none.
Received none.
Next item on the agenda, public input.
Also none.
Next item on the agenda, unfinished business. School board will hold a discussion about the award of a custodial shed contract.
Alright, I'm gonna, call in Eric Scott, he's with Century, just so you guys, so he's on the line here listening in case there's questions. Just 1 second here. I guess I'll see if he calls me back. Maybe we can answer the questions without him anyway. Okay, so thank you everyone for taking time out of your night to be here. Essentially where we left off at the last meeting was I was asked to go back and attempt to value engineer this proposal with Century to get the price down to something that would be more palatable for the school board. And so for the last few weeks here, we've put a lot of time into this. Century has put a lot of time into this. I have to give them a lot of credit for their efforts on this and trying to get these costs down. And so where we are tonight is I've got a value engineered proposal in front of you. Hello, Eric? Hey, Eric, this is Ryan. I'm gonna put you on speakerphone. Just got started, okay? Okay, Eric, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. Alright, so I guess where we're at right now is laying in front of you guys is this valued engineered proposal. I can go through I'll go through this and explain to you what we're proposing to change, and essentially with these revisions, Century was able to get their price down to $449,925.04. So in talking to Mr. Tichy, there were a couple things we had. We kind of went back and forth. There were a few things like we were looking at maybe getting rid of the electric or the key fobs and stuff. We had to kind of work through some of that stuff, some of the insulation stuff. We were down a little bit lower. We added a few things back in, and so that we did end up right back at that, right around that $450,000 mark. But essentially, all the things that we have value engineered in this, we feel is still giving you the building you were requesting. And so that was our goal through this whole thing, was we didn't want to take away the building that you were requesting. So with that, I guess I'll just start kind of going down the list. So on the mechanical and plumbing, we're looking at a narrower, smaller, different style trench drain. That cheapened things up quite a bit. And then the sand oil separator, we were able to change that out to something that was gonna be a little cheaper. We originally had 4 heating units in the shop area in order to keep things a little more evenly heated. We reduced that down to 2 heaters and increased the size of those. So the heating may not be quite as uniform, but it's, the mechanical engineer looked at it and, sized things appropriately so that they will keep up with the building that's out there, so that won't be a problem. On the electrical side, again, we're removing the unit heaters, so that changes things a little bit. After reviewing the code a little more on this, it was determined, and we talked to the fire marshal's office, it was determined we can remove the fire alarm system, that's a part of this, so we took out the connection back to the school. Since there are no classrooms in this, students don't have access to this building, there's no requirement for the fire alarm system in there. Also, sounds like things were worked out with the tech coordinator so that things can be done wirelessly for internet and stuff, so therefore we don't need hard data connections back to the school. So we were able to eliminate essentially all direct connections to the school building. With the key fobs, or the keyless entry, we are providing the electrical power to those, but the devices themselves would not be supplied through this contract. Those would come through the owner. With the power going, the power that's feeding this, we had in there originally to bore over to the transformer. They are switching that out to trenching over to that existing transformer. The next few things are changing out some of the type of wire, removing some spare breakers, changing to some different types of switches, all things that are in the code, just maybe preference changes more than anything there. And if anyone has questions as we go, please do ask. From the architectural and structural side of things, the windows, we swapped those out to a little bit simpler style window, so that was able to save us quite a bit of money. The foundation plan, we changed that out to called a frost protected slab. So instead of digging the deep foundation, it's a little bit different foundation style, and we added some insulation around it to ensure that we weren't gonna have any problems with insulation on the edges. They're proposing a different style of framing, so in lieu of what's in the plans, which that was originally allowed in the alternate too as anyway, they just elected not to submit an alternate bid on that. So that was a big cost savings, but it's really not anything we wouldn't have expected anyway in the original bid. We removed 2 exterior bollards that were on the corners of the building just for some added protection. The interior door to the restroom was swapped out to wood. Number 6 there, again, that has to do with the keyless entries. The steel for the building, in lieu of the original plan, had 26 gauge steel for the wall panels and 24 gauge for the roof panels, changing those to 29 and 26 gauge respectively. And then the lined roller sheet in the office is being removed. They said their quote on that was kind of ridiculously high and just unnecessary, especially since it's a west-facing window and it's likely the sun's not going to be shining in there during the day anyway. So from the civil side of things, we did have a parking pad off to the side of the driveway. That was just kind of a request as we were designing this thing out. It wasn't a necessity, it was just something that had been asked to add, and so we took that back out, taking out some temporary fencing around the site, and then the seeding, fertilizing, and mulching, removing that as work to be completed by the owner. So with those items, again, Century was able to get the price of this down to $449,925.04. Anybody have questions about those items? Or what's being put in front of me?
How does so without a fire detector in there, how's that gonna affect insurance?
I can't answer that question
Are we
directly.
gonna be able to get coverage? I mean, are they gonna have payments for that?
By code, they can't because it's not an occupied space, but we'll have to have some kind of protection.
Right, just not built into the current alarm system, right? That's not to say that there won't be like
Code is gonna require.
smoke detectors in
Yeah,
there.
and there's gonna be on the unit heaters, there'll be a CO monitor type of exhaust, there's a lot of vehicles in there. But I guess,
So code-wise, when I talked to the fire marshal's office, they looked at this and said it's no different than bus barns that most schools have, essentially. It's viewed the exact same way.
trying to get an answer to that, if you'd like, make a call.
Well, that's just the first thing that popped up is,
That's a good question.
are they gonna dig us for higher rates then, because there's something tied in there? I don't know.
What was the cost difference for that particular item?
We don't have a full breakdown.
Sure,
on
right,
every
like
item. They went
itemized
back to their
item.
subs and tried to, so a lot of these things, as you change one thing, it changes other things, and so trying to itemize out
Right.
the value of each item
Is
individually.
difficult.
Yeah, I think that's fairly difficult to do.
Just the boring is probably worth about 13.
If that's something we wanna look at, a line item price, the way to do it, if we wanna get going, might be to just, I can get a line item price for that to add it back in. If you wanna approve the contract tonight, we can just do that by change order.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I like ladder framing opposed to a pole barn.
Yeah, I know you'd express that right away, so I assume you would probably
I see that.
appreciate that.
Not a big fan of the footing, but I can make some concessions, but. I was afraid with the request to lower the price as much as we did, that I was going to be presented with a pole barn plan, so I was delighted to see that it wasn't.
I gotta give all the credit to Century on that. I can't take credit for that. I'd love to stand here and try, but no, that's,
We can mute the phone and then you can
Right,
take
right,
all the
you can say whatever you want.
no.
Send it next.
Any other questions about the value engineer proposal here? One other thing I did, I guess we did change in terms of completion date. It doesn't say right here, but we, through discussions at our last meeting, we pushed the completion date back to March 31st, I believe it is. And the idea there, Century said that they still expect that this will be winter work for them, so they didn't, it probably wouldn't make a difference, but with their attempts to work with us on everything, we felt it was beneficial to try to work with them a little bit and give them a little more time as needed to get this done. So, essentially, we've pulled everything together into, the way we're approaching this is, we're presenting this to you as an amended contract. Instead of starting off by awarding the original project and doing a change order right off the bat to change the price down to what's presented here, we're basically saying this value engineer proposal is being made a part of the contract, and therefore the contract that we would recommend approval of would be for a contract of $449,000. So.
I think Chris brought up a good point with the insurance and knowing what kind of ramifications are, not having it tied into the building. But pending that and maybe finding out what the line item price is to add that back on potentially, if the rates are high enough
To warrant that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, we can always do that,
I like everything else.
I agree.
I still have a hard time that we're still over we're $150,000 away from the budget. But we
Well, the
were-
budget was for the box, and then once we started adding scope, we had cost.
Yeah.
And the scope add was at the request of staff, so.
Make
I
it
think we
functional.
pulled the 300 just kind of out of thin air where we'd like to be.
So, I mean, how many buses we can fit in there, 2? Is that-
Yeah, it's not meant to be a bus barn, it's meant to be just a warming spot for
Mhm.
buses to de-ice if we need that during the winter months. 'cause
And to
we
store
certainly
other
don't have that
custodial
here.
equipment.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I mean, we should, this is actually technically a bus barn. It's not a custodial shed.
It's not a bus barn.
It's not a bus barn,
It's
we're
never
not parking
intended to
buses
be a
in
bus
there.
barn, ever.
But I, I've had, well, I'm just saying, I mean, we can put custodial stuff in there and not have, I mean, we've had buses parked outside for years, and to now build something that we can put buses in, when we originally, were just moving custodial stuff. And I've had too many people come up to me and talk to me about this price.
I haven't had any.
Me neither.
Me neither.
I got one. Yes, if I thought that was an honest and fair number for 450, I told him I thought it was a little high, but it can't be done cheaper, I don't think.
I know it can't be done cheap. I'm not questioning the value of it and everything else.
What do you think the alternative is then?
A whole barn, at this price.
Take it right back on.
I mean, I think, for
All the
me,
pole
with
barn
the,
estimates came in at 500,000+. Every single other contractor that submitted a bid submitted a pole barn estimate,
Right.
and they were all higher than this one.
But without any of that stuff in it, there wasn't, if I look back, I remember back when there were estimates for a barn like, for a shed like this, and then an estimate for pretty much just a structure.
The alternate was the alternate, same everything inside.
same everything,
just
just a little more.
a pole frame. instead.
Same wish list, different style of construction.
What's the intent there, was to open it up to more ag-based builders, thinking it would be cheaper, and it was not. Because I got prices from 3 different pole builders on the bid I submitted, they were all higher than my number of stick frame traditionally.
Our insurance company said that there's no students that'll be in there, so it'll have no impact on our insurance.
Then I would lean towards Angelie, and if she says we can afford it.
Well, like I said, when we originally did the budget, we budgeted higher on our improvement to the building, thinking we had some projects around here that we were gonna do. But with those projects, we took the Band-Aid approach, so they ended up being a lot cheaper than what we're budgeted for. So in that improvement to building line, it's budgeted heavy.
Mhm.
We're not gonna use all that.
Right.
So with the current budget we have, we are using $250,000 of our cash for capital outlay. And I think if I move some money from that line into the building, we won't go over that. Not gonna go over our budget.
Did we use any capital outlay money for our, ag classroom for those improvements, or was that all grant?
We use some. And I'll give that a breakdown of that next board meeting, our regular board meeting, because that's complete
That's
next
the big
week.
Right.
The flooring was not.
Oh,
That's all.
40 technically out of our budget for the shop classrooms.
Probably more like 70
I thought it was 70
total.
per,
Like for both of those, that's
Okay.
what we spent total.
so there might be some money left over there yet as
Yes,
well.
yes.
So if we take 250, roughly, what's that leave us in our
Improvements to building.
building improvement?
We'd still have like 250.
Okay.
It was budgeted very heavy.
I mean, I think this is a great investment back into our district, and I think people pay taxes to reinvest in the district and not for it to gain interest in, savings account or, and we've been doing some investment in the CDs as well. I mean, if you think back to when our audit was here, he remarked, or if you read the audit report, he remarked about how much cash we have and how strong of a cash position that we have, that we're able to actually put more in CDs, et cetera, to gain interest. So I think that this is a great opportunity to reinvest in our district. And I think it's a reasonable price point that works within our budget, so I have no problems with this proposal.
Well, ultimately, we need something in place for our custodians.
Absolutely, it needs to be functional, we need, yeah.
You could argue we might not need this for them, but we need something.
The custodians were part of the planning process for this too, so they had a large voice in what it ended up turning into, so I think that.
Because they're the ones that use it every day, and in the end of the day, it needs to be functional for them.
Yep.
Well, answered the insurance question for me, instantly answered the budget question for me. I'm happy with it.
The investment in the district is a huge district, and districts that don't invest in themselves go in the wrong direction, so. I see this as a nice step. I don't disagree with Chris on the bus barn. That would be something that I would like to see happen too, but ultimately, that's a couple things for me, because the buildings are gonna have to look at it as one, it's a lot more cost, number two, we wouldn't have a good spot to put it right now, just because of the raw size and everything. And typically, bus barns aren't heated either, so at least this takes care of that if we gotta thaw something out.
Right.
And the stadium's in rough shape, we put a Band-Aid on that. I don't like the idea of trying to store $75,000 worth of our equipment for the buildings and grounds at a stadium, knowing that that's just maybe a 3-year
Right.
solution. And it's not very efficient for Larry either, because he's running back and forth all the time.
I think it works in a temporary basis, but I
Yeah.
don't think there's
I
any
think it's a
long-term
fine,
answer
but-
with that structure.
And I think the patches are holding, but
It's a long way away from where they work.
yeah.
Cold day, lose a lot of productivity, because I'm gonna stand over there, warm up, coffee before I reverse back.
So is that the plan then, to put all the snow stuff under the stadium this winter?
For now, yeah.
There can't be any plan to put a couple things in the shop?
Might as
So
well
it's-
stick them on the basketball court, because that's a classroom.
I
Probably
mean,
not during the day while the kids are here, but at night could.
something, leaving that stuff sit outside over, I know that stuff's underneath there, but it's still not heated.
We can leave the skid loader in the shop, put it outside during the day and pull it in at night.
My steel sits outside every day.
We're talking like the turf and stuff.
Yeah, because when you turn those Dodgers on and they're frozen.
That stuff.
There's no heat in the stadium?
Mm-mm. Any other discussion or questions in regards to the custodial shed contract? All right, thank you.
So,
I was curious, is there a reason that the motion to vote on the custodial shed contract is listed after executive session? I feel like it should actually be before. Yeah, I think things just got flipped around.
Would you like a motion to amend the agenda?
You have to just sit there.
Long night for you.
I'm like, I just noticed that as we were chatting, I was like, that's not, okay.
That's what we had discussed, is that if we felt the need to add a motion, we would. I don't know how it ended up down there, I apologize for that.
Yeah, let's amend the agenda then to,
That shouldn't have been on the agenda at all.
add, I guess, new business, a new business section. And we will move, the motion to approve awarding the custodial shed contract to Century LLC up under new business as number 1. New business B1. Does that sound okay to everyone? Okay. All right, if there's no further discussion in regards to the custodial shed contract, I will require a motion to approve awarding the custodial shed contract to Century LLC. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Oh, motion by Cody.
Yeah, it's
He's closer to me, yeah.
That's how it works.
Second, David, was that you?
Sure.
Okay, second by David. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next time on the agenda will be executive session.
Just gonna mention to you guys, just so you're aware, Century has expressed they want to get rolling on this very quickly, so from here, they have to get their bonds and stuff in place, they thought they'd have those, before the end of the week, and then we will, basically get everything signed on the agreement, and my understanding is they're gonna get moving pretty quickly, so we'll be in
Wonderful.
touch.
Well, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you guys.
Brian, can you get Jake a copy of their builder's risk too, when they send it to you?
Of what?
Their builder's risk.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, can do that. Thank you.
All right, then the next item on the agenda is executive session. We'll require a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of South Dakota Codified Law 1-2-2, parentheses 1, and South Dakota Codified Law 1-25-2, parentheses 2. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Cody, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by David?
Me.
Or Doug? You guys sound so alike. Second by Doug, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. In executive session, 7:26 PM.
What would it take to put like a temporary